AITA for staying quiet after my wife mocked my loyalty, then letting the truth unfold. I'm Jeffrey, 39, and by the time this started, Calista and I had been married for 11 years. 11 years is long enough to know exactly how someone takes her coffee, which side of the couch she likes, what face she makes when she's pretending not to be annoyed, and apparently long enough for her to decide my loyalty was something she could laugh about. Before all of this, I thought our marriage had just gone quiet. Not dead, not broken beyond repair, just quiet. Dinners got shorter. Her phone stayed face down. Her little jokes at my expense got sharper. If I asked why she came home late, she'd give me that soft, tired look and say, "Jeffrey, I don't need to be policed." If I noticed she had changed her phone password, she'd say, "If you trusted me, you wouldn't care." And I wanted to trust her. That's the part one still hate admitting. I wasn't walking around hunting for proof. I wasn't checking her location, following her, or interrogating her every time she put on perfume. I kept telling myself every couple hits a tired season, and I was still trying to be a decent husband through ours. I didn't realize I was the only one still trying. The small stuff started first. At brunch with friends, she'd say things like, "Jeffrey is dependable." Not exciting, but dependable. Everyone would chuckle, and I'd force a smile because it was easier than being the guy who couldn't take a joke. If I looked hurt, she'd squeeze my arm under the table and whisper, "Don't do that. You're making it weird." When Dorian was around, it got worse. Dorian was 40, loud in that polished way some men are when they believe every room is waiting for them to speak. He wasn't a close friend of mine, but he had drifted into our circle through Calista and Maribel. For a while, I thought he was just another person from the group. Someone who showed up to cookouts, brought expensive whiskey, laughed too hard at his own comments, and always seemed to end up standing near my wife. At one barbecue, he told her, "Calista always knows how to keep a room alive." She laughed and glanced at me like I was supposed to be grateful someone noticed her. I remember that because I felt something twist in my stomach, and I ignored it. That was a pattern with me. Notice something. Explain it away. Feel stupid for noticing. The birthday dinner was at our place, a casual family and friends thing with trays of food on the counter, a cake on the kitchen island, music playing too loud from someone's phone, and people drifting between the kitchen and the back door like every party we'd hosted for years. Calista was glowing that night. She wore the earrings I gave her 2 anniversaries before and acted more affectionate toward me than she had in months. She touched my shoulder when she passed me. She called me babe in front of everyone. She even kissed my cheek while Soren was helping me carry out drinks and said, "See, he can be useful when he wants." People laughed. I laughed too, because that was what I had trained myself to do. Maribel was there, of course. She was Calista's best friend, 36, sharp, pretty, always filming little clips of everything like life didn't count unless it went into a group chat. She had 2 chats going that night. One was our shared barbecue chat, the one with spouses, relatives, and mutual friends. The other, I later learned, was a private one with Calista and a few women who thought my marriage was entertainment. I was standing near the sink, scraping frosting off a cake knife, when my phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again. Then 3 more times. I looked down and saw a video preview in the barbecue chat from Maribel. It had already been deleted by the time I unlocked my phone, but the preview was still there long enough for my screen to show Calista's face, Dorian's sleeve, and the first line of audio when I tapped it from the notification. The clip was maybe 6 seconds before it disappeared. That was enough. Calista was curled into a booth somewhere, not from that night, leaning toward Maribel and laughing like she had just told the funniest secret in the world. Dorian's hand was visible on the back of her chair, his thumb brushing the fabric near her shoulder. Someone off camera asked, "Aren't you scared he'll find out?" Calista smirked and said, clear as a bell, "Jeffrey still thinks loyalty is enough to keep a woman. That's why this has been so easy." Then the video cut off. A second later, Maribel typed, "Wrong chat LOL." Then she deleted that too. Nobody said anything in the kitchen. Not because nobody saw it. Because too many people saw it at the same time. I felt the heat leave my body. It was like standing in a room where everyone was still talking and laughing, but the sound had moved behind glass. I looked across the room and saw Maribel staring at me. Her smile was gone. Calista was talking to Dorian near the back door, bright and animated, completely unaware that the floor under her had just cracked. I wanted to walk over there. I wanted to play the clip at full volume and ask her to repeat it. I wanted to grab Dorian by the collar and ask if he enjoyed being part of the joke. Instead, I took a screenshot of the deleted message notice, saved what the notification had cached, and put my phone away. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the cake knife. I stepped outside and stood by the trash cans in the dark, breathing through my nose like that could keep my chest from splitting open. That was the first time I understood something clearly. If I gave Calista my anger, she would turn it into her alibi. I went back inside. Calista smiled at me like nothing had happened. "Where'd you go?" she asked. "Trash," I said. She wrinkled her nose. "Romantic." I looked at her, really looked at her, and wondered how many times she had smiled at me while carrying a secret that made me the punchline. After everyone left, I sat in my car in the driveway for almost 20 minutes before going back inside. I didn't trust myself in the same room with her. Not because I thought I'd hurt her, because I knew I'd say something she could use. So I called Callum. Callum was the kind of friend who didn't waste time telling you what you wanted to hear. We'd been close long enough that he knew when to be gentle and when to be blunt. That night, he was blunt. I told him what I'd seen. I repeated Callista's line once, then couldn't say it again. He was quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, "Do not confront her tonight." I laughed once, not because anything was funny. "That's your advice?" "That is the advice that keeps you from giving her a scene she can quote," he said. "You are allowed to be furious. You are not allowed to be careless." "Callum, she was laughing about me." "I know. She said it was easy." "I know." I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. He said, "Softer. Build the file, then build the exit." That sentence sounded cold. At the time, I almost hated him for it. But he was right. When I finally walked back inside, Calista was in the kitchen in an oversized sweatshirt, eating leftover cake straight from the box. She looked up at me and smiled. "You've been weird tonight," she said. I took off my jacket. "Tired?" "You sure?" I nodded. She studied me like she was checking for cracks. "You're not mad about something, are you?" That question told me she knew something had almost gone wrong. Maybe Maribel had warned her. Maybe she saw the way people got quiet after the video. Maybe she just knew she had too many lies in the air. I said no. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Good. I don't have energy for one of your moods." One of my moods. I slept maybe 2 hours that night. By morning, I wasn't calmer. I was clearer. The first thing I checked was the shared household email. Not her private email. Not her phone. Nothing I had no right to access. Just the boring account we used for bills, travel confirmations, home deliveries, subscriptions, and anything we both needed. The first receipt was a rideshare confirmation from a night she told me she had been at Maribel's helping her through a rough, emotional spiral. The pickup was from a hotel bar just after midnight. The drop-off was a few blocks from our place. I remembered that night because she had come in smelling like rain and another person's cologne and told me I was hovering when I asked if she was okay. Then I found a restaurant charge from the joint account on a night she said she had grabbed salad with coworkers. It was for 2 entrees, 2 cocktails, and a dessert at 11:43 p.m. Then a hotel charge. That one made me sit back in my chair. It was the same weekend she had called a reset night with Maribel. She had told me they were going to do face masks, drink wine, and complain about life. She sent me a selfie from Maribel's couch that evening. The hotel charge was dated the next morning. The worst part about receipts is how calm they are. They don't care if your hands shake. They don't care if you're remembering the way your wife kissed your cheek when she got home. They just sit there with dates and numbers and make you stop arguing with yourself. Over the next week, I noticed everything. The shared calendar entry labeled M on evenings she swore were last-minute errands. The doorbell camera timestamp from a night she got dropped off by a car I didn't recognize at 1:16 a.m. Dorian showing up in old group photos after Calista had once dismissed him as just somebody from brunch. The way Maribel avoided looking at me when we were all in the same room. And Calista kept acting normal. Worse than normal, really. She acted wounded. One evening, she stood in the kitchen while I was making dinner and said, "You've been walking around like a stranger. Do you even want this marriage?" I kept stirring the pan because looking at her felt dangerous. "I'm trying to understand what this marriage actually is," I said. She let out a sad little laugh. "See? That's what I mean." "What do you mean?" "You're so cold, Jeffrey. You punish me with silence and then act confused when I feel alone." I turned off the burner. For a second, I wanted to ask her if she felt alone in that hotel room. I wanted to ask if Dorian made her feel visible. I wanted to quote her own line back at her. Instead, I said, "When did you start feeling that way?" She crossed her arms. "For a long time." "How long?" "I don't know. Years, maybe. Years." That was when I started to understand the second betrayal. She wasn't just cheating. She was drafting history. She needed a version where I was the cause, and she was the consequence. A few days later, Soren called me. Soren was connected to both sides of the family, the kind of guy everyone trusted because he hated drama and always wanted people to calm down. He started the call with a sigh, which meant he had been recruited. "Jeffrey," he said, "I'm not taking sides." That usually means someone has already taken one. "What did she tell you?" I asked. He paused. "She's struggling." "Okay." "She says you've become emotionally punishing, that she can't talk to you without you shutting down." I stared at the wall in my living room, at a framed photo from a vacation where Calista and I looked happy because maybe we were. Or maybe I had just been easier to fool then. Soren said, "She sounds broken." I said, "Broken people can still lie." He didn't like that. I could hear it. "I just think you should soften," he said. "Whatever is going on, don't make her feel trapped." There it was. Trapped. That word kept showing up after that. In family texts. In comments from mutual friends. In things Calista said when she wanted to look brave for staying with me and wounded for being near me. "You don't know what it's like to feel trapped in a marriage," she told me one night, while folding laundry she had left in the dryer for 2 days. I watched her match socks and thought about that video. "You're right," I said. "I don't." She looked disappointed that I didn't take the bait. Callum kept me steady. Every time I drafted a text I shouldn't send, I sent it to him instead. One night, I wrote, "I know about Dorian. I know about the hotel. I know you laughed at me." Callum replied, "Delete that." I wrote, "She deserves to know I know." He replied, "No. You want relief. Relief is expensive if you buy it too early." I hated how reasonable he was. The next step was Veda. I met her in a quiet office with clean walls and no emotional decoration. She was 50, precise, and calm in a way that made me realize how chaotic I sounded. I told her everything I could without rambling. The video, the receipts, the group chat, the shared account, the way Calista was telling people I was controlling. Veda listened, took notes, and only interrupted when I drifted into what I wanted to do instead of what I could prove. Finally, she said, "You do not need to be dramatic. You need to be accurate." I nodded. She folded her hands on the desk. "Do not hack her phone. Do not access accounts that are only hers. Do not hide shared money. Do not threaten Dorian. Do not post anything online. Do not send emotional messages that can be screenshotted without context. Evidence is useful. Emotion is not evidence." "I don't want to lose everything because she lied first," I said. "Then stop thinking like a wounded husband and start thinking like someone who needs clean records." So that's what I did. I gathered only what I had lawful access to: joint account statements, shared email receipts, group chat screenshots, the cached clip preview and transcript, doorbell camera timestamps from our own home, messages sent to me directly, shared calendar entries, the hotel, and rideshare confirmations. Nothing hacked, nothing stolen, nothing private that I had no right to touch. I opened a separate account for my personal income after Veda told me what was appropriate. I stopped adding money to the joint home refresh account Calista had been pushing me to fund. I canceled the unnecessary luxury charges tied to my card. I changed passwords to my personal email, banking, cloud storage, and subscriptions. I updated beneficiaries where I was legally allowed to do that. I canceled the anniversary trip I had been saving for, which hurt more than I expected. That trip had been my last stupid hope. Calista had talked about it like it could reset us. She wanted a nice room, expensive dinners, the whole thing. I had been looking at reservations while she was apparently looking at exit strategies. I learned that part because of Maribel. The first message from her came at 7:12 on a Tuesday morning. "Hey, did you see that video from Callista's birthday? I'm so embarrassed. I was drunk and posted nonsense." I stared at it while my coffee went cold. I didn't answer. 20 minutes later, she sent another one. "I mean, if you did see it, it was taken out of context." Still no answer. Then, "Please don't make this bigger than it is." That one almost made me laugh. I wrote back, "How big is it, Maribel?" The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, she wrote. I thought it was just venting. I replied, about cheating? Nothing for 6 minutes. Then she sent, I didn't know she was going to make you the villain. My body went cold in a different way. I typed, explain. She called me immediately. I didn't pick up. I wanted words, not panic. Words can be saved. Panic changes its story. A minute later, screenshots started coming through. The first was from a private chat. Calista had written, if I leave first, I look selfish. If he blows up, I look trapped. Maribel had replied, he will blow up if he finds out. Calista, exactly. That's what I mean. The second screenshot was worse. Calista had written, after the trip and the refresh account, we can talk separation without him acting like I used him. He'll make it about money if I do it before. Dorian had reacted with a laughing emoji. Another message from Calista said, he's so afraid of looking controlling that he lets everything slide. I had to put my phone down. The affair hurt. The humiliation hurt. But that message did something else. It took the last piece of the woman I thought I knew and removed it from the room. She hadn't just betrayed me because she was lonely. She had studied me. She knew I didn't want to be unfair. She knew I didn't want to be controlling. She knew I gave space even when space started to look like a locked door. And she planned to use that against me. Maribel kept messaging. I didn't know she was serious. I didn't tell her to do that. Please don't drag me into this more than I already am. I thought it was just drama talk. I replied with one sentence. You already dragged yourself in. After that, I forwarded everything to Veda. For 2 more weeks, I lived in the strangest version of my own marriage. Calista made coffee in the morning and asked if we needed more paper towels. She complained about a neighbor's dog. She kissed my cheek once before leaving and then looked at me like she expected me to melt. I paid attention to how often she checked my face for anger. She wanted the explosion. Maybe not consciously every second, but she wanted it available. She wanted one ugly text, one raised voice, one smashed plate, one moment she could hand to an audience and say, see, this is what I've been living with. I gave her nothing. That did not mean I was calm. I cried in the shower once with the water hot enough to burn my skin. I sat in my car outside the grocery store for 15 minutes because a song from our wedding came on and I couldn't walk inside. I woke up at 3 a.m. more than once imagining Dorian's hand on the back of her chair. But in front of her, I was careful. Not warm. Not cruel. Careful. That made her anxious. One night, she stood in the doorway of the bedroom while I was putting clean sheets on the bed. Are you seeing someone? She asked. I almost laughed. No. You're different. So are you. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means you're different. That's not an answer. It's the one I have. She stepped farther into the room. You know, when you act like this, you prove my point. What point? That I can't talk to you. That everything becomes a wall. I smoothed the fitted sheet over the corner. She said, softer, I made mistakes, Jeffrey. But you made me feel alone first. There it was. The rehearsal. I looked at her and said, you can call me boring. You can call me cold. But you don't get to call me the reason for choices you haven't even admitted yet. Her face changed for half a second. Then she recovered. I don't know what you think you know, she said. I know. She waited for more. I gave her nothing. The dinner came from her, not me. That mattered. She wanted a healing conversation. Those were her words. She said we should invite a few family members and close friends because the tension has started affecting everyone. In reality, she had already been feeding them her version for weeks, and now she wanted to put me in a room where I'd either apologize for things I hadn't done or react badly enough to prove her script. Everyone doesn't need to be involved, I told her. She looked down like I had disappointed her. They already are. That part was true, because she made sure of it. Soren called again the day before the dinner. I hope you're coming with an open heart, he said. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a printed folder in front of me. Tabs labeled timeline, receipts, messages, shared account, group chat. My laptop was open to an email draft with attachments uploaded and checked twice. The subject line read, the timeline Calista forgot to mention. My heart's not the part anyone should be worried about, I said. He sighed. Jeffrey. Soren. Did she tell you Dorian would be there? Silence. Then, she said he's part of the friend group. Right. I'm not taking sides. You keep saying that. He didn't answer. Before the dinner, I talked to Veda one more time. She reviewed the email list with me. I was not blasting strangers. I was not posting online. I was sending information only to people Calista had already involved, people she had already used as an audience. Veda said, state facts. Do not editorialize. Do not name-call. Do not threaten. If you speak, speak less than you want to. That last part is hard. It usually is. The dinner was at a relative's house. Neutral ground, supposedly. It did not feel neutral when I walked in. The living room was too clean, like someone had prepared for a difficult conversation by wiping every surface. People spoke in low voices. Maribel stood near the hallway, looking pale. Dorian was in the corner with a drink in his hand, wearing the expression of a man who thought discomfort was something that happened to other people. Calista looked fragile on purpose. No bright lipstick. No big smile. Soft sweater. Red eyes. She reached for my hand when I came in, and I let her take it for exactly 1 second before I gently pulled away. She flinched like I had slapped her. A few people saw that. I'm sure she wanted them to. We sat around the dining table with plates of food nobody really touched. Someone had made baked chicken. There was salad in a wooden bowl. A candle burned in the center of the table, giving off a vanilla smell that made the whole thing feel even more ridiculous. Calista started before dessert. I didn't want things to happen this way, she said, voice trembling. But I feel like we can't keep pretending everything is fine. Nobody moved. She looked at me, then at the table. I've felt invisible for years. I've tried to talk to Jeffrey, but he shuts down. He makes me feel like every emotion I have is too much. I know I'm not perfect. I know I've handled things badly, but I've been lonely in my own marriage for a long time. Maribel stared at her plate. Dorian took a sip of his drink. Calista continued, gaining confidence. And lately, I've felt watched. Judged. Like having friends is something I have to defend. I know people will judge me for trying to find comfort where I could, but I was drowning. Trying to find comfort where I could. That was a pretty way to describe hotel charges. Soren turned to me. He looked uncomfortable, but not cruel. Jeffrey, he said, is any of that true? Calista reached for a tissue and dabbed under her eye. Her performance was good. I'll give her that. Not cartoonish. Not obvious if you didn't have the dates in front of you. She knew how to make her voice break at the right places. She knew how to sound like a woman who had rehearsed pain until it looked natural. I waited a beat. Then I said, I wasn't a perfect husband. Callista's shoulders loosened, just slightly. I continued, but I didn't cheat, and I didn't build a story to make cheating look like survival. The room went still. Callista's eyes snapped to mine. I put the folder on the table. She whispered, what is that? The part you left out. I opened my laptop, clicked send on the prepared email, and closed it again. Phones started buzzing around the table one by one. The subject line did its job. The timeline Calista forgot to mention. I didn't play the video out loud for drama. I didn't need to. The email included a short transcript of the group chat clip, screenshots of the deleted message notice, and the cached preview. It included the date of the hotel charge, the rideshare confirmation, the restaurant receipt, the shared calendar entries, and one of Maribel's messages to me. It included the screenshots Maribel had sent me. If I leave first, I look selfish. If he blows up, I look trapped. After the trip and the refresh account, we can talk separation without him acting like I used him. He's so afraid of looking controlling that he lets everything slide. I watch people read. It was not satisfying in the way movies make revenge look satisfying. Nobody clapped. Nobody gasped in perfect timing. It was uglier than that. Forks stopped moving. Faces tightened. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Soren leaned back in his chair like the room had shifted under him. Calista stood up. "Why would you do this?" she said. I looked at her. "Because you did it first." "I made mistakes," she said, voice rising. "But you're humiliating me in front of everyone." "You made our marriage a public joke," I said. "I'm making the truth public to the people you lied to." Her mouth opened, then closed. Dorian finally spoke. "Nobody knows what happens inside a marriage," he said. I turned to him. "Apparently you thought you did." He looked away. One of Callista's relatives, who had been quiet the whole time, pointed at her phone and asked Calista, "Is this real?" Callista's face crumpled. "It's out of context." Maribel made a sound that was almost a laugh, but had no humor in it. Calista snapped, "Maribel." Maribel held up both hands. "Don't." That one word did more damage than anything I could have said. Because until that moment, Calista still thought Maribel might help her patch the lie. But Maribel had already decided her own reputation mattered more than loyalty. I didn't know she was going to make it this ugly, Maribel said, looking at the table instead of me. Calista stared at her like betrayal had just become offensive now that it was aimed in her direction. Then someone asked the question that cut the room open. It was Soren. He looked at Dorian and said, "Are you planning to be with her?" Dorian blinked. What? If this was love, if this was worth blowing up a marriage and lying to everyone, are you with her now? Calista turned toward Dorian. For the first time that night, she looked genuinely scared. Dorian shifted in his chair. This isn't the time to put labels on anything. The silence after that was brutal. Calista stared at him. He added, "It's complicated." That was worse. A few weeks earlier, he had been brave enough to put his hand on my wife's chair while she laughed about me. In front of consequences, he became a fog machine. Calista whispered, "Dorian." He said, "I never told you to lie." It was the first honest thing he said all night, and it helped nobody. I stood up then. Not dramatically. I just pushed my chair back. "I'm not here to win a popularity contest," I said. "I'm here because I'm done being lied about." Calista wiped at her face. "So what? You're divorcing me?" "Yes." That was the first time I had said it to her face. She looked like I had moved too fast, which was almost funny considering how long she had been planning her own exit. "The paperwork is already prepared," I said. "You'll receive it formally. Divorce-related questions can go through email or attorneys. You can't just decide that. I can decide I'm done being married to someone who treated my trust like a weakness." Her mother started crying quietly. One of our mutual friends got up and left without saying goodbye. Another friend wouldn't look at me. I knew some people thought I had gone too far. I could feel it in the room. There are always people who think the truth is rude when it arrives with receipts. But I also saw Soren's face. He looked ashamed. He stood when I walked toward the door and followed me out to the porch. "Jeffrey," he said. I stopped. He rubbed a hand over his jaw. "I owe you an apology. I was too tired to be gracious." "You do?" He nodded. "I heard her first. I should have asked more questions." "Yes," I said. He looked back toward the house. "I thought you were being cold." "I was being careful." He nodded again, slower this time. "I see that now." I drove home with my phone buzzing in the cup holder. Calista called 17 times that night. I didn't answer. Her voicemails came in waves. The first was crying. "Please call me. I know you're angry. I know I hurt you. But you didn't have to do it like that." The second was defensive. "You embarrassed me in front of my family. I don't know how you expect me to even talk to you after that." The third was angry. "You're proving everything I said about you. You're cold. You're calculating. You wanted to punish me." The fourth was small. Dorian left. I deleted none of them. I sent them to Veda. The next morning, I got a text from Maribel. "I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner." I wrote back, "Yes." She replied, "Is that all?" "Yes." Later, I heard Dorian had texted Calista that he needed space. Of course he did. Men like Dorian love danger when someone else pays for it. Once the bill comes to the table, they suddenly need room to think. The consequences weren't instant fireworks. Real life usually isn't that neat. Some people apologized. Some went quiet. A few sent messages that sounded like apologies written by committees. "I'm sorry for assuming things. We only knew what she told us. I hope you understand we were trying to support her." One person told me I had handled it too publicly. I replied, "She involved you publicly." They didn't answer. The anniversary trip cancellation went through 2 days later. Seeing the confirmation email hurt in a way I hadn't expected. Not because I wanted to go with her, but because I remembered booking it when I still thought effort could save us. I had imagined us sitting across from each other somewhere nice, phones away, maybe finding our way back to whatever we used to be. Meanwhile, she had been calculating whether to separate after I funded the trip and the refresh account. That was the part one kept returning to. Not just the sex. Not just Dorian. Not just the video. The planning. The way she had taken my patience and built a trap out of it. I limited the joint account in the way Veda advised. I did not hide money. I did not drain anything. I did not play games. I stopped paying for Callista's personal extras from my card. I documented questionable charges. I kept communication short. When Calista texted, "Can we please talk like adults?" I replied, "Please send divorce-related questions by email." When she wrote, "I miss my husband," I replied, "I'm not discussing our divorce by text." When she wrote, You're really going to let lawyers ruin 11 years? I didn't reply at all. 3 nights after the dinner, she showed up at the door. The doorbell camera caught her before I even stood up from the couch. She looked smaller than usual in the porch light, hair pulled back, mascara smudged, wearing the kind of sweatshirt she used to steal from my side of the closet. I opened the door, but kept the chain on. Her face folded when she saw that. Seriously, she said. The chain? I'm not discussing our divorce in a driveway. Then let me in. No. She swallowed. Jeffrey, please. I didn't answer. She looked down at the porch. I got lost. That almost broke me, not because I believed it, but because I recognized the voice. The soft one. The one she used early in our marriage when she admitted she was scared or overwhelmed or didn't know how to say something hard. For a second, my body remembered being her husband before my mind remembered why that was over. She said, Dorian meant nothing. I laughed once. I couldn't help it. Her eyes flashed. I'm trying to be honest. No, I said. You're trying to be safe. I made a mistake. You made plans. Tears spilled over then. I didn't mean for it to become this. You wrote messages about waiting until after the trip and the refresh account. She flinched. You told people I was controlling so if I reacted, you'd look trapped. Maribel twisted that. Maribel sent screenshots. She was trying to save herself. Probably. Still real. Calista gripped the porch railing. I was unhappy. I believe you. That seemed to surprise her. I said, you had options. Counseling. Separation. An honest conversation. You picked cheating, lying, and an audience. Her mouth trembled. I didn't know how to tell you. You knew how to tell everyone else. She looked past me into the house. Can I at least get some of my things? I reached beside the door and picked up the bag I had already packed. Not everything. Just what she had asked about in previous messages. Clothes, toiletries, a charger, a few personal items. The rest would be handled properly. I set the bag on the porch. Her face changed again. You packed my stuff? You asked for those items yesterday. You're so cold. No, I said. I'm done being reachable in ways you can manipulate. She stared at me like she was waiting for the old Jeffrey to come forward. The one who would soften because she cried. The one who would apologize for making her feel uncomfortable while she hurt him. The one who would choose peace over truth because peace felt safer. I missed that version of me for about half a second. Then I realized he was the one she counted on. The paperwork is in process, I said. Questions go by email or through attorneys. She shook her head. After 11 years, that's all I get. No, I said. After 11 years, you got loyalty. You laughed at it. That landed. She picked up the bag. For a moment, she looked like she might say something real. Not polished. Not rehearsed. Not designed to make me feel cruel. But then she whispered, you'll regret this. And there she was. I nodded once. Not privately. What? If I regret anything, I'll handle it with my therapist. Not with you on my porch. I closed the door. I stood there with my hand on the lock for a long time after she left. I wish I could say I felt powerful. Mostly, I felt exhausted. There's a strange grief in winning the truth. People think exposure fixes humiliation, but it doesn't erase the sound of someone you loved laughing at you. It doesn't erase the memory of defending her in your own head while she was teaching other people how to doubt you. The divorce moved forward. It wasn't cinematic. It was emails, documents, quiet mornings, tense exchanges, and learning how much of my life had been arranged around not upsetting someone who was already gone. Calista's family stopped sending me advice after the timeline. Soren checked in once and said, I should have trusted your character more than her performance. I appreciated that, even if it came late. Maribel lost more friends than she expected. Not because I campaigned against her, but because people don't like realizing someone laughed in one chat and acted innocent in another. She sent one more apology weeks later, longer and more polished. I didn't respond. Dorian disappeared from the group almost entirely. That told me everything I needed to know. He liked being chosen over a husband. He did not like being expected to stand beside the woman who chose him. As for Calista, she kept trying different doors. The apology door. The blame door. The memory door. She sent me a photo of an old vacation and wrote, we weren't always bad. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed, no, we weren't. I almost sent more. I almost said that was what made it hurt. I almost told her I missed the version of us in that photo, even if I no longer trusted that it was real. But more words were just more rope. So I stopped there. People have asked if I regret sending the email at the dinner. The answer is no. I did not send it to punish her for cheating. I sent it because she had already turned our marriage into a courtroom and invited witnesses. I just brought evidence. I didn't need strangers to hate her. I needed the people she lied to stop judging me with her script. And I'm not going to pretend I became instantly peaceful. Some mornings, I still wake up angry. Sometimes I think about that video and feel the same hot shame I felt standing by the sink with frosting on a knife while my phone buzzed in my hand. Sometimes I wonder how many dinners I sat through while other people knew more about my marriage than I did. But grief is not regret. I lost Calista before I ever saw that video. The video just showed me where the body was buried. What I got back was quieter. My own judgment. My own name. My own ability to sit in a room without wondering which version of me had been passed around before I arrived. Calista thought my silence meant I was stupid. It meant I was done giving her warnings. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.